Hello, 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 hello. Today I'm talking with Joanne Perold. We talked about how the agile person Joanne is now is different than the agile person she was 10 years ago, and how to operate as a human.
I'm Ivanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it.
Hello, hello everyone, and hello with me I have Joanne. I think that's how I should pronounce your name. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Perfect.
And but I want to do also when I start out, I want to show us a little bit on where both of us are. And I'm in Belgium, and you are in Johannesburg, if I'm correct. And that
Yes.
means moving across the globe to Africa. So here we are, and let's bring you back on screen. And on my side, it's well, let's say 5:30, something like that. What's the time on your side?
Also 5:30. So we're same
Exactly,
time
because
zone. Yeah.
we're very far away in kilometers and miles, but this is how time zones work. If you go down, then actually you stay in the same time zone. So that's yeah how we are able to now uh, be in the same time zone and still talk, although we're very far away from each other. And
Yeah,
Joanne,
which is awesome.
which is awesome. I think so too. And yeah, this is well thanks to everything we have with remote working and all the tools we have these days. We can have these chats both from our preferred location or from our location where we want to be, whatever that is.
Mm.
Um, Joanne, before we jump into the questions, what do you want people to know about you? How do you want to introduce yourself?
Um, I don't want to introduce myself. So it's the Who is Agile kind of podcast. And I think
Mhm.
my version of agility has changed over the years. And
Mm.
so I guess the agile version of me 10 years ago is not the same as the agile version of me now.
All right.
And I think now I'm more of a principle person than a methods person, I think. Yeah.
Wow. I'm pretty sure we'll dive into some of these things later on. I'm pretty sure that will pop up. So that is already a very nice introduction about how things, because typically indeed people focus when they introduce themselves on this is how I am or grand, but you make
Mm,
it immediately like, hey, this is who I am, but different than 10 years ago. I really like that because
mm,
indeed, I think a lot of people, and agilists maybe more than others, keep evolving and keep
yeah.
learning.
Mm,
And we are well. I'm definitely also not the same person that I was 10 years ago,
mm,
and the world has changed. Also, I would say
mm.
definitely things are a lot different now than they were 10 years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a very nice way of looking at yourself. Well,
Mm,
let's jump into that very first question. What is
cool.
something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
I think lots of people don't know that I studied photography in that was how I started.
Mm,
I I left school and wanted to go into the creative arts field, and then somehow ended up doing technology, HR and payroll systems, and then through there ended up in the world of software and tech and agile and all of those kinds of things. But yeah, my original things was to be a photographer. And then I
wow.
realized that digitally maybe wasn't as awesome as I thought I was, or as talented as I wanted to be. I wanted to work for National Geographic. Mm. So yeah. I think
Um,
the dreams of, or the creativity is something that I still love and I still lean into, even though I've realized that I'm not necessarily a great photographer. I still take photos because I love it and I still try to learn in that way. But I think that I still love being creative, and my creativity now is very different. It's a creativity around creating learning outcomes or workshops for people. It's around understanding how humans learn and grow, and thinking about how I can create experiences for people that allow them to achieve something different. I think that's really what's the thread that's carried through, even though there's this the starting point was very different.
and was there a specific moment that when you were doing photography that you were saying, "Oh, maybe I'm indeed not that good," or maybe this is not for me? Was there a particular moment there, if you want to share?
Yeah, I think there were a few things. There was a few. There were a few exhibitions that the university, or the technical university that I was at, had, and a lot. Not all of my no, my work didn't get chosen, or very few of my pieces got chosen. So that was the one thing.
That's
And
rather harsh, but useful feedback.
yeah, it was very harsh but useful feedback. And then I think when I left there, I actually went traveling. I traveled around the UK for 2 years. And while I was traveling, I was just working as I was a polo groom for for polo horses, and I worked in bars and that kind of thing, working holiday. And I had a lot of time to think and to process and to, to decide, like, really what's my life going to look like.
But you were still taking
Yeah.
pictures at that time, or you already left that dream at that moment?
I was still taking pictures, but I think I was starting to realize that, you know, was I ever going to make a living out of this? Probably
Mm.
not. What was I going to do when I got home? And I had to grow up a bit, and how was I going to pay the rent? And, was photography going to be the thing? And I was like, I don't think so.
Right, right.
Mm,
But still, that you had a period where you were traveling. Typically,
mm,
indeed, I would say when I think of traveling, well, a lot of people take nice pictures or take
mm,
pictures of where they are,
mm,
so that is part of a life in a way.
mm.
Um, is that what picture taking, what photography meant for you, like landscapes or people, or what kind of photography were you interested at that moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had a few interests. One of them was from an art perspective. I wanted to do fine art photography. And I was trying to figure out what my voice was and what I had to say. And then the other thing that I've always loved is I've always loved architecture and places, landscapes and architecture and stuff like that. So I never was never really that great at shooting people. I don't know, people. It's weird because I do love people, but I just wasn't really great at shooting people. um, but I think, I've always loved trying to capture like a moment or a place or the feeling of a space when you go, that, especially when you see
Mm.
something for the first time, or when you see something that's just super beautiful, or yeah. So now I take photos for me. uh, I take photos of plants, and I take photos when I travel, and I've got lots of photos of places. Yeah.
But not with the intention to sell or make a living, more for yourself, I think. Then
Mm.
that's what I.
Yeah, I use them a lot in my newsletters or in my LinkedIn posts, or yeah, wherever I can. If I can find great photos that I think work for whatever I'm
That
doing, then I yeah, I
Yeah,
do that.
that's what I see with a lot of people. Like, okay, we
Mm,
kind of do the how would I say it? Yeah, kind of moves into other
mm,
parts of our lives where that first
mm,
thing pops in, either as a hobby or using it. With your presentations, I guess you can use a lot of pictures as well and things like that. So there is still lots of excuses to take pictures and use them, I would say.
Exactly.
But in a different kind of way.
Yeah. I think my favorite now is to go into nature, into the bush. I love going on safari. And so now I love taking animal photos. So I've got lots and lots of animal photos. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely. I can see that. I think we're also living in a world where taking pictures is much more. Well, if I look back when I grew up, like there were cameras, but and you could take pictures, but taking a picture at that moment meant you take a picture and then you first have to take all your pictures, or I don't know, 24, something like that, and then you bring it to a photographer, and then I don't know, a week later you see the results. These days you take a picture, you look already on your phone or your camera, and instant feedback. I think at the same time people take much more pictures, throwaway pictures. Like for me, that taking pictures, like 10,000 pictures and just selecting one, that would not have been possible when I grew up. And I see that there is a different relationship with pictures these days. Is that for you as well as a photographer? Did you change in that way?
Oh, definitely. Because when I started, I was taking, it was all film. So I did black and white photography, which I still love. Like the magic of developing your own photos and watching something appear out of nothing in the darkroom is still one of my favorite things, and something that I would love to go back to. But definitely, so that fast feedback nowadays allows you to make so many decisions differently, or change perspectives, or get a better shot. Whereas back in the day, you'd have to shoot a roll of 35mm, and there were 36 if you were lucky, and 24 photos most of the time, and you wouldn't know what they looked like. And then if you did something wrong when you were developing them or in the process, then you could ruin a whole roll of film, even though you thought you had like the best shot ever. which is something so distressing. Every now and again, something would go wrong with the chemicals, or the guys used to make so many weird mistakes. Like we had this darkroom where you would load film onto a canister to develop to add the chemicals to develop, and it had to be pitch black in that room, especially for black and white film. So you had to learn how to do it by feel, and it was kind of fun, and it was really difficult. And if you did it wrong, then sometimes the film would get stuck, or it would stick to itself or something like that. And then every now and again, people would just do the stupidest things. Like they would go into the room, and instead of turning the lights up, they would close their eyes and they would like close their eyes and then ruin the whole roll of film because they forgot to switch the lights off, because they're so used to it being dark, and their eyes being closed anyway, that they would like close it. Every now and again, people would just do weird things.
With feedback that wasn't instant, that was kind of hard to note. Well, you as a photographer might notice it, because of course it's not the first time that you take pictures and you've seen a lot of these pictures. But that's right.
I haven't thought about that in a while.
Well, this is what makes it fun to talk about some of these things. We think about different kind of ways of looking back. Let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you? And you talked already briefly about photographer, but was there something else that you were destined to become, or that maybe little Joanne wanted to do?
There was definitely something that little Joanne wanted. I think little Joanne wanted to work in conservation. So I think if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, I'd probably be doing something in conservation, working in the bush somewhere, or I don't know, something to do with conservation, conserving of animals, ecosystems, something like that.
Wow.
Mm.
And when was there, when again, similar to with the photography, when was there a shift in your mind, or when was there, was there a moment that there was a shift, or did you just forgot?
I think, yeah, it was weird. I think that was just something that, like, you become a teenager and, it was something that I always wanted. And then you become a teenager and then you have to start making decisions for your life, and it's hard and you don't really know what you want. And some things feel harder than others. And you're a teenager, so your brain is doing weird things anyway. Um, and so yeah, so I think there was kind of a forgetting moment, more than anything else. Yeah, but like, more recently, I've gone back to thinking about what can ecosystems and ecologies and nature teach us about organizations, about organizational design, about systems, about complexity, about leadership, all of those things. So maybe I end up going full circle and I go back there.
Well, that's part of something that I've heard already before here as well, that people say like, okay, I could have been doing that, but maybe I will still in another part of my life, or in a later part of my life. So that's it. And is that I can joke about it, but is that something that for you is still something like, oh, maybe yes, is it a dream or something that you still regularly think about?
I think it is. I think about it in different ways, though. So now I think about it in ways of, how do I combine that passion with the other passions that I have of creating great workplaces, creating products and businesses that think about people and the planet, and what does sustainability from that perspective look like. What does sustainability from a leadership perspective look like, if we have to think about sustainability as, what are we creating for the next generation? What are we creating in our organizations, in our products, in our thinking? That speaks into. I saw a video the other day about Earth, and all of us being made up of the same atoms and molecules. Like, we're all made up of the same stuff. We're just these incredibly beautiful and unique manifestations of the exact same stuff. But the even more bizarre thing is that,
just like a photographer, I might use the same camera as you, but we'll get different pictures and different results, even if looking at the exact same thing. So
exactly, exactly. And our planet is the only planet that is able to create something as beautiful as us in kind of our so far known universe, and that's pretty special.
it is.
So maybe we want to look after it.
That's these days it's I don't know, when I grew up it was like, okay, I had the feeling that in general we cared more about the planet than now, 30 years later, and actually we should care more about it these days. It's kind of strange.
It is a bit.
Indeed, that is sometimes a strange feeling that 30 years later or whatever, things have shifted in a way that is sometimes very strange. I want to move, and actually taking care of that planet is a challenge, and I want to move to that next question. What do you consider at this moment your biggest challenge, at least the biggest challenge that you want to share openly on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
What's my biggest challenge? I thought about this a bit before, and I was trying to think of what is my biggest challenge? I think I have lots of challenges right now, but I'm not sure which is the biggest one. I think
Selecting
one
a
of the
challenge is a
yeah
challenge.
yeah that's one. There's too many to think about. No, but for real, I think one of the big things is figuring out like where to from here. Like where do
Mm.
where do I go from here that's going to have an impact plus um help me be somewhat financially secure plus allow me to be true to myself and my values and my authenticity plus all of those things. So I'm I've got ideas about where I want to go and what I'm trying to do, and there's agility in it, I guess. But I think there's what I'm struggling with is to refine it in a way that makes sense for me. I think, and I think the good thing, why is it a good challenge for me? It feels like growth, those things that stretch you into those uncomfortable places. Feel like must be a growth phase, something that's going to allow me to come out the other side better or at least
Mm.
clearer. Yeah. Maybe it's about letting go of things that I don't want to let go of, and maybe it's about learning to not be the expert at everything, but rather being someone that is curious.
This is something I've recognized and I've seen with quite a lot of people over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. Is like at some point people become an expert,
Mm,
and they might be less interested at some point in doing the same thing. But okay, if I start doing something else, I won't be the expert anymore. And so
mm,
I like being the expert, or maybe it's better paid, or maybe there's all kind of
mm.
advantages of being an expert, uh,
Yep.
both internally and externally. And all of a sudden, if you want to say, okay, I want to do, and then it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of golden handcuffs of being an expert in a way.
Mm.
And is that something that you recognize, that situation? Is this, have you been in this situation before of being an expert at something and then letting go?
Yeah, I actually think that's a great coaching question, Eve. And but I do think yes. Early on in my career, I was working for this HR and payroll company, and I had been working there for 8 years at the time, and I knew all the systems incredibly well. I knew the customers incredibly well. I knew the problems incredibly well. I knew how to solve the problems fast and effectively. I knew, yeah, all loads and loads and loads of things. And then I realized it was time to kind of move on.
Mm.
And so I stepped into something new, and yeah, I had to leave that expertise behind.
Because this is then more an expertise at a certain client or at a certain, yeah, company. But of course, you were regarded as expert in that company, and you were
Mm,
able to help everyone. And then you
mm,
start again somewhere else. And indeed, that's kind of the coaching things I've been thinking about. It could be
mm,
experts leaving in completely different role, but it could indeed
mm,
be, and this is what I see a lot, is that sometimes you feel that okay, people are ready to go to somewhere else, but they're so afraid to let go of,
mm,
yeah, they're, well, of course, the colleagues they like to work with, but also the fact that, hey, in this company everybody knows me,
mm,
I know everything, I know where everything is, and then next week I might be joining
mm.
somewhere else and I don't even know where the toilet or the coffee machine
Yeah,
is.
yeah, exactly.
So and so, was that so? You said you did that at that moment after seven,
Mm,
8 years. Um, was that
mm.
an easy for you to do these kind of things?
I think back then it was easier. Maybe I don't know. It felt
Mm,
it felt felt necessary and felt exciting. And this time it feels a little bit different. I think there I knew where I was going and what I was stepping into, and I was going from
But that's
working for one company to working for a different company.
But that's
Um,
at the moment you already took the decision. I mean, I'm more asking
yeah.
about before you take the decision, because at the
Oh,
moment you take a decision that you indeed you know where you're
stops.
going. But
Mm.
before that
Yeah.
moment, how easy is that? Was it, for example, a quick decision,
Mm.
or was that something?
No, I think this time neither of them were quick. I think for me, I gotta think about it and process something for a while, and I don't always
Mm,
realize I'm doing it. And so I think and process and think and process, and then I decide quickly. But actually, I've been thinking about it for quite a while, and so the decision becomes quick, but the the catalyst or the idea or the need has been brewing for a while. And
mm.
then yeah, and then all of a sudden one day I'll just be like, okay, now we'll go, or this is what's happening, or
Right.
yeah.
So it's
Mm.
been brewing inside you or
Mm.
whatever, and then at some point you say, and probably for the outside world, it might look like, oh, wait a minute, Joanne, that was a very quick decision. Where does that come from? But maybe for
Mm.
you, it was already brewing for a while and growing.
Yeah.
I think that's this is why I like to ask that question, because it shows that, yeah, it might look very quickly, but actually
Mm.
it might take a while. Although at some point, indeed, there is something that triggers it, and then instantly off you go to somewhere
Mm.
else with the new start. And the second part of that question was, why is that a good thing for you? Do you know, with your current biggest challenge, why is that so good? What's so good for you? Do you have already an idea of that?
um I think the growth is going to give me something new. It's going to give me new skills. It's going to give me um a new perspective, new frames. So even though it's hard, growing is enriching, I think. It enriches your life. It enriches your ability to deal with things. It enriches your context, enlarges your context and your perspectives, I think. So yeah, I think that's why it's going to be good for me. I'm going to have an enlarged perspective and new things to think about, and I think new ways of seeing the world probably at the other side. Maybe
Hmm.
even new relationships, who knows? Yeah. Like new connections, new friends, new.
Yeah, I think I think that's a very important side remark you make, because indeed, whenever we change,
Mm.
our relationships with the people around us change as well,
Mm. Mm.
and that could be with partners, with children, friends, colleagues. A lot of things might change, and that is,
Mm.
I think, at the same time, some of the hardest part, because sometimes people around you don't want to change because they feel that that
Yes.
relationship will change at that moment.
Mm.
That is indeed a
Yeah.
very important remark to think about. Okay, other things might move around me as well, or because you move, things around you might look different. That's
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting actually. I was doing do you know Virginia Satir's change model? I,
indeed, I
I, wa-
do.
I I was doing a workshop the other day for just giving people some opportunity to experience some of her ideas and thinking. And we were walking through the change process. Someone was walking through the change process. And we do it in such a way that it gives people an experience. So people play different roles. Someone's the old status quo trying to hold you back. Someone's a foreign element. Someone's chaos, giving you an experience of what chaos would
Mhm.
feel like. Someone else is going to be a transforming idea, offering support or whatever it is. Someone else does practice and integration, and then someone is the new status quo. And I had this realization that sometimes in my past I've done change where
But I just want to do, because you quickly explained it,
yes,
and I thought let's also show it on the screen, the different kind of things. So these are the
oh,
different
thank you.
steps you talk about,
Exactly.
made by
Yes.
Zuzi for me some years ago. A
Oh,
really
love it.
nice way to show indeed. Actually, I think
Mm,
I copied the wrong slide, because at the end there is, of course, the new status quo. Okay,
mm.
doesn't matter. Sorry, I interrupted you. Let's bring you back here.
No, don't worry. That's beautiful. And it's such a beautiful visual. Thank you. So one of the things I noticed was that sometimes when I do change, I make a decision and then I go super fast into new status quo and I turn around. And what I don't always do is notice what happened with other people. And I
Mm.
realized, I was like, I turned around and I said, oh, you know what? Sometimes I do this so fast and there's just bodies, there's just bodies. And I was like, oh, wow. Sometimes I don't always think about the impact that I'm having when I make decisions for myself. You know, what's going to happen to those around me? And sometimes I think about it and I try to take care of them as I go, but you can't always take care of everybody else, and you can't always make decisions for everybody else.
Mhm. And that's
So,
why I like so much this visual that Susie
mm,
made, because indeed in the chaos you see people falling down here, and
right?
yes, there is
Mm,
there is people. You can't. Yeah, there is always chaos, so you can't prevent some of the
no.
sidetracks and things are. And of course,
Mm,
if people choose for it like you do, because if you make a
mm,
change, then it feels like, I don't know, a ride on, I don't know,
yeah.
on a Christmas attraction, or yeah, a fair attraction. But it could
Mm,
or feel like, I don't know, you're going from a world, wild water rafting, whatever.
mm,
But if you're the one doing that, you decide for it, but the people around you might, they don't
mm.
take that decision, and they might
Yep.
feel they might feel very angry or disturbed or whatever. I
Yeah,
think
because
that's really important to add to that.
yeah, sometimes you're the foreign element, right? Mm,
That's it. And we typically don't realize and yeah,
yeah.
and yeah.
I think
And
sometimes as
so
agile coaches, we're the foreign element as well, and we don't always realize that
and on
that's the
top
thing.
of that,
Mm,
what I would say is that for many agile coaches, leaving our comfort zone is our comfort zone. We like to
mm,
do changes and whatever, and the people that we inflict the changes on, as a
mm,
foreign element, they don't like that, because they never,
no.
most of them didn't ask for it.
Yep.
And so then that brings a lot of other things, and they see us as, okay, we need antibodies to reject this foreign element, basically. um but you were telling a story about that you were playing this, and I interrupted you at that time.
Mm.
I think there was still a story there.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, we did this, and I had the opportunity to see it and realize that sometimes, this is what happens for me.
Hmm.
Mm. Get
And
to
I
new
think,
status quo bodies.
yeah, and then the status quo, that's also something that is, what people don't always realize. The way it's typically designed is that, or drawn, also on this picture, is that the new status quo seems always to be better as the
Mm,
old status quo, but in
mm,
reality it's not predictable. It might be less good, and so
mm,
the performance or whatever thing you want to do might be worse off after a change. And like you said
mm,
before, if you're an expert and you move to somewhere where you're not an expert, it will take a
mm,
while before you're, yeah, an expert. And even it will take a long while before you're an expert.
It's true. Yeah.
That has impact at a lot of other things. So we've
Mm,
been again moving in all kind of directions, and I like this kind of interaction.
yep.
Um, and what I've noticed with this, and with a lot of the other conversations I've seen, but here, very particular, I noticed it again. There's a lot of passion when you talk about it, and you talk about bringing that. Do you know where that passion or that drive or is coming from? Is that something that was always in you?
Yeah, what a good question. I think so. I think I've always been an energetic person, wanting to do lots of things. I'm learning to be a little bit more quiet in some areas, but I still bring my passion with me when I think I'm learning when it's more appropriate. What I think is the thing that keeps me going, or that drives me, I guess, is it's around making a difference in the world, making the world a better place, making workspaces more humane and better for people. I think I've worked in some pretty crap places in my life as well. And just the thought of, having, creating places where people don't have to suffer, if you will, for their, at work is part of what inspires me. Like, how do we make it so that people can be their whole self and bring their whole selves to work and feel energized and fulfilled while we're, making cool stuff, or making the world a better place, or maybe even just enabling whatever systems to function smoothly, or whatever it is, that we can have purpose and direction and clarity and those kinds of things that enable, I guess, like, how do we enable people to be the best versions of themselves is really what excites me.
I
Yeah.
was about to ask if you also had that as a photographer, but if you talk about bringing out the best of people, I can see a photographer doing that as well. You might want to show people in a way that they didn't think themselves, or so that is that relatable, or do I now see a link that's totally not there for you?
No, I think that is relatable, and I think that as a photographer I wasn't good at it, but doing what I do now I am. If that makes sense. Yeah. Now I'm good at enabling people to be better versions of themselves, but as a photographer, I just never quite. Maybe it was because I was too young, and maybe because I didn't have the skills, and maybe if I tried now and did more portraits now, things would be better. But yeah, I think now I'm good at helping people to see a best version of themselves and
But I
how to
would
get there.
say you have also more experience in that, because as a young, like you say, you were
Yes.
young. I mean, how
Mm.
many years of being a photographer? You had just a couple of years.
Mm.
I don't want I don't want to go into the question of how old you are, but it's definitely more than just a couple of years that you've been doing this, right? So there is
Yeah.
a lot more experience. So that I think, yeah, I want to stress that, because we sometimes look at the things that we're good
Mm.
at and think, oh, maybe it's just natural, and that could be
Mm.
true, but still you did a lot of work,
Mm.
you did probably a lot of training and
Yeah.
other stuff. So yeah, it's if you would have invested that same time and energy in being a photographer, you would definitely be a better
Mm.
one as you were back then. I don't know if you would have
It's
been
true.
as good as you are now in your current profession, but
Yeah,
still,
that's true.
you would be a better photographer as well. I think that's yeah.
That's true, actually. Practice. Yeah.
And so when I'm coming back to somehow today, I'm coming back to always that question about
Mm.
when did that happen, that because you said it was different as a photographer, the changing the world
Mm.
and making people better. Did you discover that, or is that through the work that you say, hey, this is what I really like, and moved more into that direction? Or
Yeah, I think it was through the work, actually. So, I ended up in this software place, and that was kind of okay. But then when I found agile methods and I started to work more in those methods, and then then I encountered the work of Virginia Satir, and um, the work of Jerry Weinberg and Esther Derby and a lot of what they were speaking about, and that really helped me to figure out, oh, okay, this is really what I want. This is really how I want to impact the world. This is really where I can make a difference, and this is really the craft I want to hone, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I can, and this is why I'm asking a little bit, because there's people that think that, okay, all that drive, it's there from the start. But I think with many people, we just discover it gradually along the way, and then we notice, okay, this is, and yeah, there's probably a little bit of both, but by doing it, we discover even more, and then we get even more into this, and by achieving, and that brings me automatically to that next question. What do you consider at this point your biggest achievements? And maybe before that, what I've noticed in this podcast, and I keep asking it, what I've noticed is with many people is that this is basically a moment to brag and to be really proud. Is that easy for you, Joanne, to brag and to be really proud?
No, I was going to say it's really hard to brag and I was thinking, like, what have I achieved? I don't know. And see, I'm even getting squirmy. But I think, what's my biggest achievement? I think I've achieved a level of self-awareness and groundedness that I'm really proud of. Yeah. I think I know a lot about who I am and can appreciate that and learn to appreciate that. And I think that having that self-awareness and some of that groundedness means that it's easier for me to grow. It's easier for me to help people. It's easier for me to create experiences that enable people to discover the best versions of themselves, and to collaborate well with each other, and so I think that's the one thing. I think, like, through that, one of my big achievements is that I'm able to create safe places where people can work and collaborate and learn effectively, so whether it's a training space or a space as a facilitator or as a coach, I think I can create a safety and a genuine authenticity that allows people to take risks for themselves and allows them to collaborate effectively and learn effectively and do things.
I like that, and I'm at the same time I'm a bit surprised that you then say it's hard for me to come up with something and to be proud, because this is it the way you say it, it's so natural, it's so like, yeah, this is something to be proud of, and to really say, like, hey, this is and you say it with, I don't know, a kind of thing like, okay, this is my life and this is what I've done, and it's kind of, yeah, it's yeah, natural is the only word I can think of. Where is that difference for you? Is that because maybe you sound easy, or maybe because you thought really hard about this question before? I don't know.
No, actually, I think the opposite. I think I just allowed myself. I couldn't come up with anything great before before this, so I allowed my heart to take over, and I spoke from there instead of my brain, for a change. Yeah, so I think that was the difference.
Then it comes from the heart, and then it comes
Yeah.
much more natural. That's so, yeah, indeed, that's maybe where the natural flow comes from. It's not a brain answer, it's a heart answer, I think. It's really like, okay, just letting it flow into that conversation. So yeah, that's even better, if it can come that natural, because it's a hard question for a lot of people, and at the same time, for me, I think it is important to stand still with
Mm.
these kind of things, especially with, well, a wonderful answer like that one. It's so yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to move to that next question. What do you have a personal agility tip to share?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, agility is achieved by creating shorter feedback and bigger learning. And I think sometimes those are the big things that we can miss, you know. We're busy implementing a framework or trying to create a process or affect a role or become a role or whatever it is. And I think if we just strip it out, like strip it all out at its essence, it's really about, feedback and learning. So how do we create fast feedback? Because we're going to learn, like, if we were talking about it with the photographs, back in the day when we had to wait so long to see what photos were and understand whether they were any good and whatever, it took a long time to learn to be better at taking better photos, whereas
So
now.
and that's interesting because you love so much the agility of fast feedback and learning. Maybe with the
Mm,
current cameras, if you would have had them when you were younger, you would have been a better photographer because you what I'm hearing is you love and you
mm,
need that kind of feedback in a fast way.
mm.
And
I think
maybe
that's
cameras
awesome.
were just not the right ones for you, for the photographer in you. You were just born in
Mm,
the wrong age. You would have been born 50 years later or whatever, then that would have been a totally different thing. Um, I make a joke out of it,
mm,
but I think it is an important thing to realize that okay,
mm.
uh, depending on the age you were born, there are other tools and there are other things that are available to you.
Yeah.
Um, if yeah, well, part of what I'm doing good is working with computers. If I would be born 2000 years ago, I have no idea what
Mm.
I would have done.
Yeah,
Probably
exactly.
something else, but yeah, that there was definitely no ways of technology, or not that kind of technology. um
Mm,
um I really like your going back to the essence of agile, like feedback
mm,
and learning. I think that's the thing. And indeed, it's not just about feedback, it's using the feedback to learn something. I think that's also an
mm,
important aspect that people sometimes ignore. Let's
mm.
put it that way.
Yeah.
um, so that is an important thing of um, yeah, I think this is where you see, if you see transformations that are based on a certain framework, they somehow, people sometimes forget, like, and it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really matter with what you start, but if you then
Mm,
have a way to learn and with the feedback, then things can move on. If you want to implement anything and just say this is what we're going to do and not change, then you might just as well not start, because it'll definitely not be an agile thing. Uh,
exactly.
that's,
Mm,
so the feedback and learning is really
mm.
important. So thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that. And did you because you said in the beginning, and I think this is why I keep going back. You said in the beginning you were a different person 10 years ago. Did
Mm.
you already realize things like this already 10 years ago about the feedback and the learning?
I did. I think I did, but I'm not sure that I've always found the fast feedback helpful. But I think that 10 years ago, I was probably more about the process and about getting some things right. Like you need to get these things right and need to do these things in this way. Otherwise you're not agile. Um, Whereas now I think there's context, and every context is different. And and every context needs different things, and sometimes a context doesn't need agility, but it does. But every context needs feedback, and every context needs learning.
Mm.
And if we're intentional about getting fast feedback about our process, getting fast feedback about our product, getting fast feedback about whatever it is that we're trying to change or be better at, then it's easier for us to be better at it.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that idea. It's like whatever you do, indeed look for, okay, what are the feedback mechanisms? And I think if I just look
Mm.
back at some of the things I've done today or the past week, we're really about, okay, wait a minute, we did this 1 week, 1 month, whatever ago.
Mm.
What did we learn? Where are the feedback mechanisms? What are the things that we do? Indeed,
Yep.
that is so important. So
Mm.
really wonderful way of looking at that. So wonderful tip. Thank you very much for that.
Mm.
I want to move to the next question about remote work. What have you learned about remote work? And maybe for that context is, when did you start doing remote work? Is that something you did, like
Mm.
many, discovered during the pandemic, or did you do that way before, or how was that for you?
So actually, I've been doing remote in some way or form since 2014, I think. Yeah, so quite a lot before the pandemic, because the teams I was working in and the teams I was working with had people that were remote. So one of the big teams I was working in, half of us were in Joburg and half of us were in Cape Town, and so we would get together once a week to talk about things and all of that. So we were already working remotely back then. I think the thing that shifted a lot for me was the pandemic. Obviously, that was a big thing. But during the pandemic, I actually partnered with Kirsten Clasey and Jay Allen, who wrote an amazing book
Mm.
about remote facilitation. And both of them had been doing remote stuff before the pandemic and been doing it really, really well. And yeah, and so actually we created a remote facilitation course that we were offering and still offer. But I think for me, the big learning that I have is I want to like say that it's very different, and obviously that's so obvious. Um, it's very different. But I think specifically what we miss is that we need to be more intentional about creating connections with each other in a remote space, and also much more intentional about how we engage and interact usefully. I think we can fall into patterns of, let's just screen share, or let's just like whatever, and um
Mhm.
and not really be intentional about crafting the interactions and collaborations that we want. And I think there's possibility for people to do that. And then we end up with these meetings where, like most people are actually just checking the email or doing something else. Everybody's eyes are doing this, and then, or their cameras are off, and you don't even know what they're doing or why they're there, or they don't know what they're doing or
Mm.
why they're there, or there's no engagement. And the thing is, then we just like we fall into a complacency about letting that be okay, instead of thinking about, well, how do we make this better? What's missing from this? What do we want to change? How do we improve these meetings? What's different about this? Yeah. And so so I think there's lots of opportunity for us in remote spaces, actually. Even 10 years down the line, when we think we're doing things awesomely, I still see so many horrific interactions. Yeah.
Mm. Um, Maybe, of course, we're not going to do the full course, but if you
Mm.
could give one example of how you could do such an interaction differently
Mm.
than what most people do, because I think it's interesting to give an example.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we speak about is, how do we create mechanisms that give people the opportunity to participate and engage? So creating equal opportunity for everybody to participate is one of the big principles that we have. So if we've got people all over the place and we want them to think together, we want them to problem solve together, we want them to, we invited them to this meeting, we want their opinion about something, or we want to plan something. How do we make it easy? So whether it's a Google Doc or a Google presentation or a Miro board or a PowerPoint, some mechanism that gives us a living document or a living space where people can think and collaborate together, I think is one of the important things that I like to emphasize, whatever that is for you in your space.
Yeah, I like that idea that it's no longer one person taking notes or whatever. It's like multiple people.
Yes.
For me, in a physical thing, I have really bad handwriting, and in the beginning, when I was doing non-remote facilitation, I would do. I try to do the writing on post-its on a whiteboard, and very quickly I realized this is not helping. And so I was asking people. I just said used my bad handwriting as an excuse. I didn't see it as an excuse, but I just said, okay, I can't do it. Can other people? But very quickly I realized that's a power, because now everybody's engaging and everybody's standing up and being participating, and that's
Exactly.
that's so logical and so much better. And I can focus on the other things I see,
Exactly.
and let these people
Mm,
focus on the thinking and the interaction.
mm,
And remote, yeah, I know about students, and I'm say students, but I should be at, I think, age 14, 17, something like that, that
mm.
were using a Google document in a classroom where they were collaboratively taking notes of a class.
That's
And
so cool.
and people like, yeah, we're all doing that together. It was interesting
Mm,
also for the teacher, because what I've learned from that situation is for the teacher actually had less questions because they were collaborating.
mm.
Somebody didn't understand, they used comment notes or sections, or
Yes.
and they figured stuff out. In the end,
Mm.
everybody who participated in the document knew much more because they realized
Exactly.
much more.
Ah.
The teacher didn't always see the question, but what the teacher saw were the difficult
Mm,
questions, the things that
mm,
they couldn't figure out. And so again, as a
mm,
whole group, they grew a lot.
mm,
So yeah, and that wasn't done in a physically environment where people
mm.
just use laptops and yeah, took their collaborative notes, but remotely, that's for me
Right?
almost the only way
Yeah.
of doing it. Yeah.
And the other thing is we don't create visuals, so everybody's busy talking, but nobody can remember 90 minutes of what's been happening. It's impossible.
Mm.
So we're all sitting there talking at each other, and maybe one person is taking notes somewhere or whatever the case may be, but like just making the conversation visual allows us to keep up with what's being said and create visibility of any actions or decisions we're taking, or just kind of comments that people are making, at least so that we can circle back around to this topic if we want to, or make it, whatever it needs to happen in that space. But cognitively, just even from a cognitive perspective, it's impossible for us to hold that many things in our brain. So just decreasing the cognitive load so that people have got more of their brain capacity available for problem solving and all of those kinds of things, that's already a big win. So yeah. So
Yeah, I like that. Using our brains for the thinking part, not for
yep.
collecting that information. And turns out computers are much better at collecting information.
Right.
So it's finding it back, that might be different depending on on where we stored it and if we don't have good systems. But indeed, the collection itself. Well, my brain does remember lots of stuff, but it brings
Mm.
it back at wrong moments when I'm in the
Yeah.
shower, and when and when I'm trying to sleep, it brings back something I said 10 years
Mm.
ago. But that's not the thing I wanted to remember. So indeed, using different kind of things, it's much better. That's I really like that the idea to what you said about creating opportunities for remote participation. The living document, I really like that. It's really useful things. I'll definitely link people to the remote facilitator practitioner course that you and I can Jay Allen and Kirsten have, so that might be good as well. I'll link to these people as well because it's really, I think what I want to say is that a lot of us, we learned how to behave in and learn practices on working and face to face, and we learned it gradually, all while working in the office. And now, very quickly, in just a couple of years, we all had to work much more remote. And you were one of the lucky people that did it before, just like I did. And then you realize that a lot of people say remote is not for me, but basically they haven't really learned and they haven't had any of these tricks. And I'm not saying that this is always better. I think there is advantages in both, but at least give
Me
it a fair
too.
chance and use it correctly with better tools. And I do think at the same time we're still at the beginning of discovering what is remote. I mean,
I
I
also think
think
so.
the hardware and the software got a lot better in the last couple
Mm,
of years, but I think
mm,
it's nowhere where I hope it will end up with.
mm.
I want to move to that next question. What's
Yeah.
a book that you have read? And I know that you have a couple of books you wanted to bring in.
Mm.
Which book you wanna start with?
I thought I would start with the new adult retrospectives, just because I think it's really cool, and I have
Mhm.
it here
And
if
that's
anyone.
this is the
Ah,
book from
yay!
of lovely
Yes,
ladies. Actually, I should have added David's picture as
yeah,
well. David joined the second.
yes, the team. Yeah.
I've for the people who were interested, I've did talk with both Diana and Esther on the podcasts. You see, podcast version 29 and 39 are so already a little bit older editions of the podcasts. What do you want? Why do you like this book so much?
So I always loved the first one. I find the Scrum Guide never gave people anything to go on to do great retrospectives. They had like three
Mhm.
questions that are probably the worst questions you can ask. Um, but but the first book, had this really great way of teaching these 5 phases. And I really, if you think about how you think, basically they just took this amazing way that humans actually process and problem solve, and then wrapped it in great facilitation. And so the first book was always awesome, but this one has got a richness to it that's even better. So it goes deeper into each of the phases. It gives us like a why. There's a lot of there's some great tips around creating retros for patterns that people have noticed over time. So a team that hasn't performed and a new team trying to get stuff done, and all of these cool patterns that people have noticed. And now there's a ready-made retro that you can try with exercises and everything. So even if you're a novice, there's like really awesome support for getting started, for upping your game, for all of that kind of thing. And then there's some remote tips, which I also love. Esther actually did our remote facilitation class, and so she had some cool things. And David's obviously got a retro tool for remote retrospective, so there's lots of awesomeness in that space as well. And so that was really what I loved about it, like how practical it was, and how there's so like the whole book is like a reference guide, and you can go back and refer to
Mm.
it at any given time, which I think is so awesome. Books like that, you can never stop learning from them. You keep going back and keep going back and looking at this section, looking at that section, figuring out. And there's some lovely stories in there as well. So they asked people for stories about retros and included those in there as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I think it's it was originally well, not the first. There was Project Retrospective, another book on retrospectives, but it was the most spread book. And I remember reading it, and at some point when I was thinking about writing books and blogs and whatever, I think like, yeah, why would I write anything about retros? This book is so good. Why would anyone? And now we're 20 years later, and it's probably like gazillion books and blogs on retros. Uh, but for me, and I love many of them, so I'm not going to say these other books don't value, but this is the book I keep coming back to, first or second edition,
Yep.
because indeed it still is refreshing looking at still lots of exercises that are in there that I use. Yeah, and that I'm and that I keep advising to people, read this book, both versions. Please read it, because yeah, there is so much depth. It's much more than just 3 questions or whatever. And then okay, we need, yeah, that's so valuable. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for bringing that one up. I know you had some more books, so let's bring the second book. What's the other book, the next one that you want to talk about?
So the next one I wanted to talk about was the Making Contact, if that's okay.
That's fine. So this one from Virginia Satir, we already mentioned her work a
Yes.
little bit.
Yes.
What's so good
Yeah.
about this book?
I'm trying to think about like why I love it so much. It kind of speaks to the essence of her work, which is really the essence of what makes us humans, I think, how we operate as humans. And so yeah, so I think this is a thin and easy to consume and very clear and amazing, easy to digest sort of manual of humanness, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and at the same time, I'm thinking, just looking at the title, Making Contact, it feels like at this moment, this day and age, it's one of the hardest things to do. How do
Yes,
you really make contact with another human being?
exactly.
So when you say it's easy to digest, I'm like, is it? I mean,
Yeah, that's true. So it's easy to understand, and it's kind
mhm,
of a helpful way to start thinking about it. I think one of the things that Virginia wanted was for us to learn really how to increase connection with ourselves and others. And so, this is a great blueprint for that. How do I increase connection?
I
But I
love how
think
you mention
yeah,
also with yourself. I think
yes, mm,
yeah,
yeah,
I would consider that the first step before you can, well,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
one of the important steps to make
Mm.
contact with others is make contacts with yourself, I would say.
E- Exactly. I think so. I think, like making real contact, there's so many ways for us, the world is giving us so many ways to disconnect and
Mhm.
to, and to not make contact with ourselves or be disconnected from ourselves and other people. And
Mm.
and so this is for me like something that helps us get back to that. Like, how do we make contact? Because sometimes making contact with ourselves is scary. Who wants to, sometimes we want to just avoid what we're feeling or avoid the scariness or the whatever or whatever is happening. But the reality is that, like, if we don't allow ourselves to feel and learn how to be with ourselves and each other in the moments of sadness and grief and happiness and anger and frustration and all the things, then we're missing out on the kind of richness and beauty that exists, as well as the learning and support and all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that when you say that, and I think it's also like, well, I can imagine that if some of the emotions are really painful, the I don't like to call them negative emotions, because emotions are just things. It's not negative, or it's what we
Yeah.
make out of that. But still, the anger, the frustration, all the what so-called negative things, people might run away from it because it's too painful. And I can imagine that depending on what people went through in life, that some things are too painful. And yeah, maybe detaching at, I mean, if a person is in a crisis, in a war situation or whatever, I can understand that people don't want to think about that, and that they just, yeah, that's not the moment.
Yeah.
But later on, realizing and feeling that anger, feeling that scaredness, whatever that emotion, I think if we don't feel it, I have the feeling it will, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it will be show up in your life anyway. It might show up as a pain that you feel like, oh, I'm having back pain, I'm having, I don't know, and it's maybe because we're trying to avoid the pain of being mad at someone, or being, avoiding to feel something else. I don't know. Do you agree with that statement, or how has that?
Definitely. I think I definitely think that things like that get stuck when we don't deal with it, when we don't allow ourselves, like Virginia believed that everybody has the capacity for healing, growth, and change. And, and part of healing was to release things that are stuck, things that are getting us stuck, things from our childhood, things from whatever is happening for us, that when we can face it, we can release it. And when we can release it, then there's energy available for new things. And also, I'm a firm believer that our body is, and the science is catching up now, that, our emotions are going to show up in our body somehow, some way, somewhere, whether we want them to or not.
I love how you can that sentence, like you say, when we can face it, we can feel it, and then we can release it. Like, okay, these three are together. You can just indeed release it, and you need to go to the facing and the feeling, the pain of it. That's yeah, and somehow, yeah, I keep thinking about. As a parent, when you have a child that is getting, I don't know, tantrums and whatever, I know a lot of parents like try to, yeah, kind of punish, or I don't know, manipulate their children to not go through these things.
Yeah.
But and I understand it. I might get frustrated when I
Yeah.
see toddlers doing whatever they're doing, with lots of these emotions that are uncontrolled. But at the same time, if we teach them in a wrong way, that they don't have that anymore. They still have that feeling, but have no way to radiate it out. It will just They will be, yeah, lots of angry little persons growing up, I would say, not even
Yep.
realizing when these kind of things. So, and so when you talked about, when you showed the book, and that's also how I taught that book, because I knew the book before but haven't read it. I thought it was mostly about making contact with other people, but now I realize it really starts with making contact with yourself before.
Yeah.
That's sounds like a really a book I do want to read, because I'm very much interested in that. And I don't know. Well, I think everybody can learn a lot about that, but I definitely know I can still learn a lot about making contact with myself, I think. So we talked already about 2 books. I think you had a third book you wanted to bring out.
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about Esther's book, 7 Rules for Positive Productive Change, I think. Yeah. So
That's the
just
one.
from, yes, exactly. That is the one. I think that what I love about Esther's book again is that, I see change and so many changes in organizations, transformations, where there's drivers of change, and when I hear the word drivers of change, I picture like a Roman chariot with a Roman and like horses and someone whipping like the horses, like, I'm gonna drive the change, This
Gladiator.
person, yeah, it's kind of, and I just think to myself, well, sure, that doesn't feel like it's going to go, the only person that's going anywhere is this driver, like no one else is there. No one else is going anywhere with this person. They're just, whipping the horses, and maybe the horses are going somewhere, but they don't know where they're going or why they're going there, or they're just the whip.
They're just scared from the whip, and so they don't care about, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think Esther's got a lot of really, like, really real and pragmatic advice that comes from deep experience about, how do people actually experience change? How can we be successful in organizations at enabling people to change, at creating change, whatever it is, transformations and change management systems that actually, are helpful, that bring people along they talk about bringing people on the journey and all of these things, but Esther's advice is really, like, specific and practical in that way, and that's part of what I love about it. Yeah. And plus she knows Virginia's work, so she brings some of that in as well, which I think is also helpful.
Yeah. Definitely, I think, this is one of the books that I read. I'm still, it's not a book that I've used as much as the facilitation for the retros, but it's definitely a book that I've already opened since, because I feel that, okay, there is a harder book to grasp in that sense, because there's so much more depth into that. So yeah, I really love the book as much, indeed. Let's move to that next question, and this is, for me personally, one of my favorite questions. What question do you think I should also ask you, and what is the answer?
Sure. That one was hard for me. I looked at it and I was like, oh, I don't know if I've got an answer for this one. So maybe I'll just let my heart do the talking game and see what happens.
That worked before, wonderful. So let's move there.
Yeah. What do you think I should ask, and what is the answer? What is something exciting that you're busy doing at the moment? So one exciting thing that I'm busy doing at the moment is that I'm actually part of a Virginia Satir Legacy program that is working to learn more about Virginia's work and to deepen my knowledge and experience around her methods and models, so that I can teach other people. And as part of that, I am also I'm kind of part of a triad who is looking at developing what does the Virginia Satir leadership model look like. So Virginia Satir was a family therapist, and as lots of people know, and so not everybody understands how amazingly applicable her work is in a business context. But I've been using it in business contexts since I first heard about it in 2012 from Esther Derby and Don Gray and Jerry Weinberg and Hannah Rothman. And there's so
You're talking
much
about problem-solving leadership workshop, I guess, right?
I was
Or
actually
not?
talking about the Amplify Your Effectiveness conference. That
Okay,
was the
the related
PSL came
one.
second. Yes.
Exactly.
But yes. And so, so I think that's, for me, that's very exciting. I'm excited and I'm terrified. They usually go hand in hand when you're doing something cool. Or new,
And
meaningful. Yeah.
And is this something you do? You said you try it with a couple of people. Is this something
Yes.
where, if people listen in here, that they say, I can join in, I want to join, is that possible? Is that just hidden in, I don't know, how does that work?
Yeah. So at the moment, there's a couple of us that are working on it, but pretty soon we want to start bringing in some of the people that were already had working in the space with Virginia. So there was a lot of people like Esther, like Don, like Johanna, like a whole lot of like John Badman and Eileen Strider and Wayne Strider that have worked in the organizational design space and organizational development space that we want to share something with. And so when we've got something to share, then we want to take it to the world. And then I guess we'll bring new people on board to help us. So we're going to take a first go at it and then see how we can improve, get feedback, right? Close the
Exactly.
feedback loops and learn.
It's
Yeah.
I was asking, well, of course for my audience, but also the personal interest, because it's
Oh, cool.
a couple of trainings, couple of things, read a lot, read
Mm.
quite some things about Virginia Satir, and at the same time I always feel like I haven't used it as much as I can and want to. So and definitely
Oh, awesome.
um, she had a big impact on, I think, a lot of people,
Mm.
partially because of the training you talked about, because into IT that had a lot of people follow, well, I think it's broader than just IT, but a lot of people following these courses.
Mm.
The PSL, as far as I know, still sells
Oh,
out in an hour or something when they send out an email. Basically, if you don't respond within the hour, all places are gone, more or less. So yeah, that shows a little bit, and of course, it's not just about Virginia Satir, but a lot of other things as well. But still, inspired a lot about that. So yeah,
yeah.
really interesting things that to look at, and it's interesting that, because this is a person living so long ago where the world was completely different, and at the
All
same
right.
time almost everything she did still has impact on how we work with teams, how we work with, well, families, and how we work with
Yep.
couples, and
Yeah.
so a lot there that is interesting. So
Mm.
I'm really interested to learn more. And whenever you're ready to share more, please reach out to me. I
Would
will
love to.
definitely would be really interested to see things are. And with that, we are already at the last question. Who do you think I should ask next?
Great question. And I love that you always ask this and get new people and new ideas and new things from new people that you might not know about yet. I think it's so cool how you create new networks for yourself and for other people in the world. So that's
It's both the
yeah.
blessing and a curse, because I started out originally with this podcast with already a list of myself of 200 people. I think about 200 people, and I'm here. You're still not number 200, so you're still in the very early. But by now, the list is already more than, it's already close to 800 people by this
Oh,
moment.
wow.
So
Okay.
it keeps growing, and
Mm,
I can I can't catch up, because
mm, yeah.
if I'm lucky, people only invite one person, and then it just
Yes.
the list stays the same. But if they
Mm,
invite multiple people, it explodes,
mm.
and I love it that it explodes, because, like you say, I get to know much more different people,
Yeah.
and still from my originally 200, not everybody was invited yet, because
Mm,
yeah, it grows in different kind of directions, which I love.
mm,
But it also means that I kind of know that I will never be able to reach to everybody.
mm,
I don't promise that I will talk to 800 people. I already
mm,
said it multiple times. I have no idea how long I will keep going. Every year, I think it's somewhere in the year December, I try to decide, will I do another year?
mm,
And that's it. And if people are recorded by then, I will still put it out. Um, but yeah, I know that reaching the 800 or whatever number it will end up at the end won't be possible. But for
mm,
me, the order in which people connect is really in the order that people reach out to me and schedule a meeting schedule a conversation. So yeah, it's but I like the serendipity of this.
I
That's
also
really
do.
that said,
And
who do you want to invite, or do you want to add something else to that before you share?
no, I was just going to say, I think it is. It's like about serendipity, and I love the fact that you know that you're not going to get to everybody, but you're going to keep going until you decide that you're done. I think that's beautiful.
That's basically it. Yes.
So I was going to share with you someone in South Africa who I think is awesome. Mike Freislich. He's been
and this should be him, if I'm correct.
That is Mike. Yes. He's got a little bit less hair these days on the top and a little bit more at the bottom, but that's Mike.
That's a little bit of depending on when the picture is taken. I most of the time I take pictures from LinkedIn, and I've noticed myself I don't always update it when my look and feel changes a little bit, and so yeah, that might be a little bit an older picture. But anyway, I interrupted you on that. Why should I talk to Mike?
So Mike's he was instrumental in starting the agile community in South Africa with Peter Bundemark, and he is doing some really, really cool stuff with flight levels at the moment. And I think that's a reason to talk to him. But also he's got a wealth of experience. He's done lots of different things, and he's got lots of practical things to share. He's also an insightful guy, and yeah, he's one of those guys that you can have a great conversation with at the bar.
That's definitely what I like to do. When you say flight levels, is that flight levels I link to? Forget the name now, but I didn't link it to Mike. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So Klaus, yes. So Mike is one of the flight levels trainers and coaches and professionals, and he's also working with Klaus currently to organize the conference. And yeah, he's been doing things for quite a while now.
Wonderful, because I just yesterday I talked with someone because we might look at flight levels inspiration for it, at least at the current company or the current client I'm working with.
Awesome.
So that gives me even more a feeling like, okay, talk with Mike. So that's gives us already some things. But yeah, this was brought to my attention from a colleague. So I at this moment I really know very little about the flight levels. I just, like many things, you see it floating around, say, oh, this is another interesting thing, I want to learn some more. And then somehow a client says, if you know this, you might be interested in that. And like, okay, this is the moment to learn some more about it.
There you go.
Exactly. And talking about serendipity, all of a sudden I'm talking with you and says, okay, I want to talk with someone who knows even more about that. So really wonderful.
There you go. Gives you the opportunity.
Exactly. Well, of course, we're not always going into the details of the things that people are working with, but still, it's interesting to learn some more about the people behind. Joanne, I really want to thank you, because at this moment we've been talking for quite a while. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect with you?
So you can jump on at my LinkedIn, Joanne Perold on
that
LinkedIn.
Should be the LinkedIn.
That is me. Yep. And you can check out my website, which is www.fathom.co.za.
I didn't prepare that one, but I'll definitely add it to the show notes, because indeed that's where I know that the remote facilitation meetings were on and stuff like that. So definitely I will link these in the show notes as well. And then rest me only to thank you for your time, because it's been for me a wonderful Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, I would say. And as predicted before we started, it's still in Belgium really sunny. I don't know how it is in Johannesburg. Is
pitch black.
Pitch black. Wow. Okay. So that is, although same time zone, you see, and that's actually why I asked, because I was expecting that, and this is again what you sometimes notice. We might be in the same time zone, but it doesn't mean that the lighting is exactly the same. It's already, there is some
Yeah.
difference there. So yeah. Still, you got lots better weather than in Belgium. We might have more light right now, but definitely also a lot more rain than you have in Johannesburg. So
For
indeed.
sure.
Well, I want to really thank you, and
Mm.
we can go back to our favorite people around us from now on. But thank you for the time, because it was really wonderful 2 hours that I spent with you.
Mm. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this. This was wonderful. I really appreciate your time and
Thank you
inviting
for
me.
that.
I really enjoyed it.
So did I. See ya.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.